Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me to talk about FDA generic drug application and paragraph 4. Well, over the years, I have been presenting this topic, and I have seen very interesting observation from generic manufacturers, especially when they are developing their regulatory strategies. And sometimes they seem to think that it's so easy, and some other times they seem to think that it's too difficult. And I have seen sort of mixed cases, but I like to summarize, what I have observed, and based on that, you may develop your own awareness or improve your awareness so that when you prepare your ANDA application or even approach FDA to communicate regarding your pending ANDA application, and then, hopefully you will navigate the process better. Let's go to next slide. This is general disclaimer for your own review, but the entire content of this presentation are not intended to be all-inclusive. What I mean by that, even though I have tried to put together the best content for today's presentation purposes, you may have expected something else that I don't cover during my presentation. If that's the case, you may raise any question during Q&A session, and I will be more than happy to address any of your questions, or even afterwards. Today we have various objectives, starting with laws and regulations, some definition. Hatch-Waxman Act. Well, Hatch-Waxman Act is interesting because, when you approach the FDA to communicate your ANDA strategy, and sometimes FDA may ask you, more than what you have been preparing. And it happened to the one manufacturer recently, foreign manufacturer, asking them to do pivotal clinical trial to demonstrate safety and efficacy of the genetic drug. Think about. We thought that new drug application, that is to demonstrate the safety and efficacy of a new drug. But then for generics, if the generic manufacturers are required to demonstrate safety or efficacy, we feel there's something wrong with, because generics is just generic. We are required to demonstrate bioequivalence, compared to brand name drugs. But sometimes FDA seem to ask a lot more than what we industry have anticipated. So to communicate better with FDA, a little bit pushback per se, we need to know exactly what the regulatory requirement is based on actual law. And some regulatory requirement for genetic ANDA filings, exclusivity, patent-related or non-patent-related, and then patent certification. In terms of patent certification, I find it very important in terms of following the actual process, and then litigation aspects, and my recommendation about best practices. So now let's go to slide number 4. The law that's applicable, for example, Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. What I'm showing you here, the Chapter 5. Well, under FDCA, for today's presentation purposes, I will refer to Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938 as FDCA. You see in this slide there are two different sections, outside the bracket and inside the bracket. Those sections outside the bracket are those under FDCA, and the section inside the brackets are those corresponding sections under United States Code. For example, if we are referring to under Section 505J under FDCA, which correspond to Title 21 United States Code, USC Section 355J, it is about Abbreviated New Drug Application, ANDA.